What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Daily Technicals live session for Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. And before we jump into the technical portion of this video, I do want to review the trade that we took last night in Eurodollar. So we went short Eurodollar in London session last night. And the reasoning behind the whole short was I seen this initial move up here that they had during Asia session. And it pretty much just looked like they were running the stops, and it was just going to be a manipulation, really. So they induced a bunch of buyers by having this strong push up. While you have to factor in the other portions of the reasoning behind this trade that we mentioned in yesterday's daily technicals, referring to the dollar index with the daily equal highs, which we'll get into in just a second. But with the expectation of dollar heading higher, we were expecting weakness in this pair. So how I was looking at this was, okay, so Asia had a run up, and that's manipulation, trapping retail traders thinking that this is going to be a buy, and they've got their stop losses resting below here. So ultimately, and if you look, it's relatively equal lows as well. So ultimately, they're going to want to take this lower if it is going to in fact be a bearish day, okay? After already making the lower low on the daily here, coming down to like 15 big figure, right? 1505 it was, I believe. But Asia session, we started like kind of wicking in here, and then we had this bearish candle that closed below this up candle. So I initially went short here, and it pretty much hung around here until London session and provided another opportunity in London session when I called the signal between 1570 and 1580 whenever we form this lower high here. So as I had mentioned in the Telegram group last night, I was expecting this to be the high of the day, and it was in fact the high of the day. So they did leave relative equal highs, which we'll get into in a second as well with the technical portion of this video. But I do want to talk about targets being hit. So I did scale off my first portion of this trade at 35 pips here, which was at 1550, which lined up with this ICT bullish order block here. So I took off the majority of my trade here, 35 pips, locked it in for the week. Again, like I was mentioning last night, we have NFP on Friday, so I wanted to make sure I locked in 20 to 30 pips for the week at least. And so I was able to lock in 35 initially, and once we cleared out this low here, which was the second target, 1525, 5 pips early, 1530, I took my closed the remaining portion of my trade there, which was 51 pips. Ultimately, later on in the day, we did trade below our daily target, which was 15 big figure, and we actually went about 30 or 40 pips below that as well. So ultimately, if you did stay in the trade until 15 big figure, you caught anywhere from 70 to about 80 pips, because our entry was up here at 1570 to 1580. So overall, great trade. Like I said last night, I wasn't expecting much with NFP this week, and I never really have my expectations too high. And now that I was able to lock in a pretty solid trade for the week, there's really no need to go in and risk anything else, because we've already had success within a low probability week. So just remember that if you were not a part of this trade, I highly recommend and encourage you to stay out of the markets until next week, at least Monday or Tuesday of next week, because we don't have FOMC or NFP, so there's going to be a lot better setups. And if you miss this, just understand that there's plenty more of opportunities. So nonetheless, good trade. But let's jump into the technicals portion of the video now. So we're going to do like yesterday as well. We're going to start with the daily time frame, and then we are going to jump down to the hourly, so we can talk about what the expectations going forward for NFP will be. And then we'll wrap it up. So for dollar index, like I mentioned, we did get above those daily highs there. And what's an interesting little note here is we had this up candle last night, and whenever I was mentioning in the group that we were at key support for dollar index and key resistance. We're basically at the 50% level of this up candle, which formed the high. So we didn't quite break structure here, but this candle is technically an ICT breaker. So we traded into the 50% level, and that was at key support level. So I was expecting potential support there, and that's actually exactly where the low of the day formed. So the 50% level comes in at 95.27, and the low of the day came in at 95.26. So off by 1 pip. That's beautiful though, and we cleared out those equal highs. So going forward for the rest of the week, I'm going to drop down to a 60-minute time frame now, and for the rest of the week, basically what I'm expecting is dollar index to pretty much find some level of resistance and start selling off, because what I believe is going on here is we're getting a lot of retail traders thinking that this market's going to continue higher, and it could very well continue higher. This is why I'm sitting out the rest of the week, because I want to see what they do Thursday and Friday for NFP before stepping back in, because what they've been doing today could be manipulation, basically. So, it's funny how you're able to actually, have success on a trade that is potential manipulation, and still be profitable with it. So that's pretty much what we did last night, right? We were able to sell euro dollar, but ultimately, if dollar index does find some resistance and start trading lower, we can see euro dollar trade higher, and basically the sell that we were a part of today would be manipulation for that potential bullish move that's setting up for the end of the week, if that is the case. So I'm actually going to go out to a 4-hour time frame so we can get a little bit more clarity here, because hourly is a little too much for this big expansion that we've had in here. So looking at this market right here, we've come within this 4-hour ICT bearish order block. So now that we're basically at the 96 big figure to like anywhere from 96 big figure to 96.20, I'm interested to see if we're going to find resistance and start selling off and trading lower. So far, it doesn't look like the case, right? But I'm interested to see if that's what they end up doing for NFP. Now, the other side of this is, they don't find resistance at all, and they just keep pushing this thing higher, and they clear out 97 big figure for NFP. So that's basically scenario 1 and scenario 2. So they're either going to find some resistance with, between 96 big figure to 96.20. If they do, they're going to sell off, and then they're going to be targeting these equal lows and here at 95 big figure. Okay, that's the sell side. If they continue pushing higher, they'll probably retrace back down into this bullish order block. So we've got a bullish order block that's formed here on a 4-hour basis. All right, so they could, what is the high coming at? 95.70 is the high of this. So they could come back down into this, find some support, and then trade higher and gun for the 97 big figure. So that's a potential scenario as well. But ultimately, I'm more interested to see if they're going to find some resistance in here, because they've had a lot of strength in here while we're still keeping these equal lows back here at 93.20. So that's why I'm considering this a bit suspect, while we also have left relatively equal lows here at the 93.80 level. So it just seems like they're building a lot of liquidity below the market, and they're running it up, trapping people. So I'm thinking what we could be seeing going into next week is potential bearish dollar and strength in foreign currencies. But obviously that could change if we get above 97 big figure. So that's why I don't want to participate for the rest of the week. I just want to, it's very low probability regardless. But I'm kind of thinking that we're getting a little bit of a fake out type of thing in here. So we'll see. Could be right, could be wrong, but nonetheless, overall great day to see these equal highs blown out so effortlessly. You know, look at the strength that they get off of the 50% level down here. Bam, forms a low. Look how quickly it starts gunning higher. And we've got all that news. You know, we had all that news through New York session today, so that's why you're seeing this later bullish run. But you know, we never have to capture the whole entire move. It's just, you know, what you look for as reasonable targets to me are, you know, 30 to 50 pips on a trade. That's really good. So that's pretty much what we were able to achieve last night, and we didn't even have to be a part of, you know, the continuation lower on Eurodollar, which was an additional 50 or 60 pips, right? We could have kept a portion on, but, you know, I just wanted to be out and just be done for the week. Take anything, you know, that I had off the table. So nothing else that I want to talk about for dollar index though. So just expect either resistance to form between 96 big figure and 96.20, or expect a and if we do find resistance there, we need to see it break through this bullish order block. So we need to start gunning for 95.20 and then ultimately 95 big figure. So that's what we need to see as in terms of like resistance coming in. We don't want to see it find resistance, come back down, and then find support at 95.80 and start trading higher. But that's the bullish scenario. Okay, so if we do trade down and find support at 95.80, so we're showing higher highs and higher lows on a lower time frame, at that point expect higher prices and look for a run above 97 big figure. That's pretty much what I'm looking for going into the remainder of the week. So, you know, we may not even have to do, unless something occurs overnight that we need to talk about, we may not even have to do a daily technicals tomorrow, because this is probably going to one of those two scenarios will more than likely be what ends up occurring for the remainder of the week. But regardless, if I need to hop on here tomorrow and talk about something else that occurred in the markets, I definitely will. So let's talk about Eurodollar now. Go back out to the daily. All right, so yesterday we had the initial lower low form, and we didn't close below it with a big bearish candle, but that's what I wanted to see, was a big bearish candle close below here. We finally got that today, so we were a part of this. As you can see, the high of the day formed at 1593, pretty much right at that 50% level of this ICT bearish breaker, which was the inverse of what we've seen in dollar index. And that was the key level of resistance that they were working off of last night, which was hovering right below that 16 big figure. And ultimately we sold off, making a lower low, closing below this low. And in my opinion, we're going to be targeting the 1450 to 14 big figure next, as mentioned in yesterday's video as well. So that's pretty much it for that. That's pretty much it for this. Once we get down to the 14 big figure, once we get down to this ICT bullish order block, I'm interested to see if they're going to find some strength there and start pushing it higher and come all the way back up here. Not saying that will be the case, but I'm interested to see if they will do something like that. Again, it really depends on what they do with dollar index, you know, going into like tomorrow and London session, and then going into Friday. But overall, we should see some support come in around that 14 big figure level to even 1450. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. But for this going forward into NFP on Friday, so basically two scenarios here again. if we continue pushing lower, we're going to be going for the 1450, which is 25 pips or so away, to the 1400 big figure level, about 75 pips away. If we get down there, I would expect some level of support to come in and them to start trading higher. If for some reason we start trading higher from here, we have left, last night we left these equal highs in the market. So right where we were selling at, we left equal highs. They formed a high in Asia, they came back up, formed another high in London session, which was actually a lower high, but they're still relatively equal highs. So we've got some liquidity built up above here and here now. So something that I'm anticipating is I'd like to see for Friday, or going into Friday, if we can get some strength, get above these equal highs and these equal highs, which would set up a buying setup or a buying opportunity for us next week in Eurodollar. So I'm interested to see what we get for the remainder of the week here in dollar index and Eurodollar. But overall, if we do continue lower, those are going to be the levels I'm looking for. And if we continue higher, I'm going to be looking for, or if we start pushing higher, I'm going to be looking for these equal highs and these equal highs. Now let's cover GBPUSD really quickly. And on a daily perspective here, oh shit, we have, so yesterday we came down, touched the 50% level here of the ICT bullish order block. Today we've closed about a pip or so below it, a couple pips below it. So I'm, again, this one I'm more unsure on GBPUSD, to be honest, because they could very well find support here and start trading higher, or they can continue to hold it in a consolidation. But we do have these equal highs up here at 1.33 big figure. So if they do find support, I'd like to see them start pushing for these equal highs. So again, could be a potential buying setup or buying opportunity for next week. Not saying we'll get all the way up here, but maybe a potential target going forward, into the coming weeks. So I want to see if we can find support here, but if we don't, and dollar index, just starts continuing to trade higher, we're going to have to assume that this thing is going to go lower, as well as Eurodollar. So in terms of, target, we would be looking for them to clear out the liquidity below these lows here. Again, we've got a lower low, but relatively equal lows here. I would just use like this candle's low, which is about 1.28 big figure. So basically an institutional level in itself. Look for price to trade below here if we do continue lower. So from the looks of it, though, I'm more likely to think that they're probably gonna continue pushing this thing lower. Just based off of the price action that we've seen from clearing out the liquidity here. But I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. That's pretty much why I'm kind of sitting out of GBPUSD right now, because I'm not as clear on this one. I basically see bullish and selling opportunities. Bullish and bearish opportunities. So yeah, let me take one quick look at Euro GBP before we wrap this up. So see, Euro GBP is starting to push a little lower here. So that's what I'm saying here. We could see a little bit. We could see strength in GBPUSD. That's why, it's hard to say what they're gonna do, whether they're gonna want to take it higher or lower. But this is relatively in a consolidation, but it does look like this wants to continue pushing lower, which would give GBPUSD some strength. So if I had anything to recommend with GBPUSD right now, I would, if you're going to be a buyer, I would have your stop loss below this low. And if you're going to sell it, see, we're just pretty low to be a seller, in my opinion now. if you're going to be a seller, I would at least work off of this 4-hour ICT bearish order block. So at 29.80 to potentially 1.30 big figure if you can get a sell in there. It should find some resistance and trade lower, and then you would be targeting basically that daily low, so the 1.28 big figure. That's pretty much both ways of how I'd play this for GBPUSD. But again, I would pretty much just wait until next week until you can have a little bit more clarity and see what they actually do with where they're at. So that's it for the daily technicals, guys. If you have any questions, just post them in the chat and I'll answer them for you. And yeah, that's going to be it for today's daily technicals.